Hey, what's going on, my beautiful people? This is Certified Life and Relationship Coach, Coach Court. In today's live session, I'm going to ask you the very powerful question: is this person even capable of meeting your needs? Now, I'll give you guys some time to get in here. But for the people who are already here, if you're watching this on a replay, if you are interested in a membership program, go ahead and go to my homepage on YouTube and just click join. And there's a bunch of different options there. You can get 20 minutes of coaching with me one-on-one every single month, as long as you're a member. You can also get priority responses on emails. If that isn't something that you want to do, if you like to do the Patreon account, that is also available for you. All of those links will be in the description below. And I just want to wish you guys a happy Friday, first and foremost. Kicking it off, I had to move my set here, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with it. I'm trying to make it aesthetically pleasing, but for now, you just have to deal with this one. And I got a question. I think it's so cool that you can get the engagers involved, people that are viewing, and I want to see if we can make this like a community project here. Like, what type of things would you like to see in the background here? Because I'm always open for suggestions, always reading the comment sections and trying to keep people as engaged and giving you the most value as much as possible, because I am here to serve you. You don't have to be watching me right now. You can be somewhere else. You can be checking out some really good podcasts that I personally listen to, and some coaches that I personally listen to. You can be doing that, but you're here, and I appreciate you guys as always. I'm here to serve you. So let's get to the questions here, if we have any. My inspiration for this live session today was, I wrote that quote on Instagram, and I'm pretty sure that is the title of this video, if I did it correctly. I'm gonna read it really quick. It is: at some point, you have to ask yourself the question, is this person even capable of meeting my needs? And I think so many people don't want to face that fact. Like Erin Rand said, the quote from her, you can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. So if you are in this hopeful stage and this feeling as if this person may change, they may be able to turn it around and meet my needs eventually. And what I see that is a person that's simply falling in love with the potential of another person. And if it doesn't actualize, if it doesn't materialize, or whatever you want to call it, then you're going to end up resentful of that person, because they've wasted your time. And you've also, lost on a lot of potential candidates that would have been much more suitable for you. And I know that we do this, me personally, I don't want to use myself for an example. We do this thinking that we're going to just pour into them as much as we can. And essentially, they're going to see us as someone that they want to reciprocate it with. They want to give back the love that we're giving into them. And this is why I think a little concept called the 5 love languages was so impactful, because people are usually given the love that they want to receive in return. But what ends up happening is you end up forming resentment, because the way that you're speaking to them, the love that you're giving them, they may not necessarily want that type of love. If you're speaking Portuguese to someone who speaks Spanish, no matter how much communication, they say communication is key, it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to understand each other. So I feel that you need to ask yourself the question, is this person even capable of meeting my needs, based on their history, based on their relationship history, their upbringing, how they're showing up right now, and the way that they've shown up in the past in our relationship. Is this even possible? And I don't care if they're promising you, yeah, I'll do this or I'll do that. I'll be able to, switch this around. But usually it doesn't end up happening, and people are upset about it. Give me 2 seconds. Make some changes here real quick. Drop the ball there. Hope you guys can hear me. We'll see. All right, let me get to these comments. Hopefully his microphone's working a little bit better. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Kathy's in the building. Glenn, as always, a partner should be a compliment in your life. Absolutely. You're enough eye candy for me. Kathy, I appreciate that. You're making me blush over here. Um, so yeah, like Glenn said, a partner should be a compliment in your life. And I know that you go to relationships to give. I firmly believe that when you go into someone's life, it's to enrich their lives, to make your presence felt. And when they feel like you're not good enough, you're going to make your absence felt even more. But I understand that when you are in a relationship and you're just giving and you're giving and you're giving, and they don't reciprocate, then it's going to be time for some changes to be made, because that's essentially what you're doing, is settling. You're settling for that person. If that person clearly knows your needs, clearly knows what you need in order to feel supported and loved and appreciated in their relationship, and they're not showing up, they hear you, but they're not listening to you, then that's when you need to start thinking, all right, A, is this person the one for me? Can they show up? Are they even willing to show up? If you guys are in here, click the likes, get the likes up, get the shares up. As always, I appreciate you. If this is your first time viewing me, like it, like the channel, subscribe, so you know exactly when I'm going to go live, because I'm starting to do live a little bit more. I go in little spurts. I was watching another coach and he was saying the same thing. He said one day you might get 2 live sessions from me, and then you might not get one for a couple weeks. So whenever you're here and you're able to catch the content, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell. So as soon as I go live, it'll push out a notification. I've been doing it on Instagram too. If you're following me on Instagram, I am Coach Court. I've been trying to send out little notifications ahead of time to let people know that I'm going to be going live here. I'm trying to go live on Instagram a little bit more too, but I just get burnt out. I, you know, I'm pretty much a one man band here, and I'm operating YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, a website. I'm doing the coaching, creating the content. So and I'm also doing freelance work for other companies too. So it's a little bit extreme, a little bit much to go live all the time. Plus, I'm a 50% dad too. So I have my kids half the week. And I'm sure you guys have seen some in the past sessions where you heard them playing video games in the background. But I enjoy what I do. I'm not complaining at all, because if I didn't like this, I wouldn't be doing this. If I didn't like this, I wouldn't have quit my other jobs to be doing this. So no complaints whatsoever. I'm really, really blessed and humbled to be able to do this. And I get to sit up and study and listen to podcasts, read, coach, meditate. I get to do all these things that um, people who have full-time jobs, they think, all right, I don't have time for it. Or maybe I'll get around to reading that book. Or maybe I'll get around to listening to that podcast, or connecting with that, following up with that client that um, for my side business. But they don't get the chance to get around and do it. Me, I'm pretty much get to do, live life on my own terms, which is it's great. And it's also humbling though when I get the feedback from you guys and I'm able to hear those stories about the person that life I've changed. And it's been kicking up more over the past weeks here, where people have been reaching out to me on Instagram just to show their love and appreciation and gratification for the content that I'm putting out here. But I feel like Dr. Wayne Dyer he made a statement or a quote. He said, don't die with your music still inside you. Now, whatever it is, if you want to compose a musical, if you want to write a book, if you want to start a YouTube channel, if you want to be a life coach, don't die with your music still inside you, because those dreams and those abilities were given to you and you only. And when you're on your deathbed, you don't want to have any regrets. You don't want to be thinking, man, I never got a chance to read that book, or I never got a chance to go see Tony Robbins in public or in person or anything like that. So that's just way off path there, but I digress. What's up, Loop Digger? I like your channel analogy. I really appreciate what. Thank you, Rika. Helped me so much. I'm laying down boundaries that I've been afraid to lay in the past. Absolutely. So laying down boundaries, to some people may feel as if that's being mean or they're being abrasive or curt or whatever you want to call it. But I see laying down boundaries as a form of self-love. That's what it is. It's being able to communicate your needs, setting stronger boundaries for yourself so you don't form resentment for that person. Because if you don't set firm boundaries, uh, throughout the relationship, eventually you're going to take your boundaries. And when you take your boundaries, it's not going to look pretty. It's going to be something it's going to be explosive. It's going to be um, like I tell people, when you don't set those boundaries soon enough, it becomes like a pressure cooker. And when that pressure cooker explode, it could have been avoided. You could have been saying these things all along. So, it's almost like you give that person that warning shot, like, all right, just so you know, I don't like that. This isn't something that I want out of a relationship. This is something that I see as helpful to be able to help us grow and grow stronger as a couple. So setting those boundaries, I'm humble. If I was able to teach you, if I was able to teach you that, and that feedback right there lets me know that all these hours, all this time I think about uh, ideas for YouTube sessions and researching and burying myself in personal development myself, it's paying off. And it makes me feel very humbled. I appreciate it, Kathy. Don't die with your music still inside you. It's a great, great quote. Man, you should go ahead and check that out. I think that they have it here on YouTube. I wish I knew the name of the lecture that he was giving, but it's really good. And that's a person that centered me when I was going through things, when I was struggling to find my purpose and understand. I just needed to just sit still. We fight and we flounder and we try to figure out where we need to be in this life, what our purpose is, what next step do we need to take. And along with Bruce Lee, we said be like water. Just be still. This is where meditation comes in. Be still, just listen. I tell people that prayer is you talking to God. Meditation is God talking to you. So be still and just simply listen to what he's telling you. And it was hard, really hard at first. I'm thinking like, I got to do all this other stuff. I'm on Indeed, filling out all these job applications. Well, I want to be this. I think I want to be that. I think I want to be this. And God said, you know what? Be still. Fine. No, be still. All right. Hard. Very difficult thing to do. And you can also, apply that to your relationships. Always going to bring it back to the relationship. You can apply that too. If someone is telling you something and promising you these things, they may be future faking. Be still and watch and see what they're actually doing. Don't fall for their words. Their feet. Someone said people are going to vote with their feet, not with their words. If they're going to be for you, if they're going to be doing all the things that they're promising you, they're going to be there. They're going to be doing it. You're going to see it. They're not going to be promised it. They're not going to be like, oh, yeah, we'll get around to that next week. No, because then they're just selling you lip service. And like we used to say in St. Louis, they're selling you wolf tickets. It's not real. All right, got some questions. If my ex-lover that I took advantage of and neglected taught me all the life lessons I needed to become a better man, do I owe it to her to try and get her back, or should I move on? That's a great question. I guess I would be cautious because you don't want to, if she's healing and she's moving on herself, let's say it was a messy breakup, it's almost selfish to try to go back and get that person back. What you need to do is to just take that lesson from the relationship and be grateful for her teaching you those things. Maybe this was just meant to be a season in your life. Maybe she came into your life to teach you what you needed to know to be a better person in the future. You don't necessarily need, I mean, maybe if you want to do like a nice gesture, you know her better than I do. But if you feel as if she was still heartbroken and this was something that she didn't really want in the first place, and you did a lot of damage, I wouldn't reopen that door again, because it's going to prevent her from healing completely. Or she could be in another relationship and the guy reach out. I don't know the details, and it might cause a little bit of rift. That'll plant that seed of doubt in her mind with the person that she's currently with. So if it's coming from a place where it's like I just want to just show my gratitude for you, and you know that she may be mostly healed, mostly through the past this breakup, then by all means. But if it's something that you're just doing selfishly, don't do it. Right? Karma always comes back around. Karma is undefeated. It knows your heart. It knows where you're really at. If you're doing this just to, kind of plant that little seed in their mind, may kind of draw her back in, and then you have to ask yourself, why do you want to go back that direction too? Because usually what happens when you break up with someone, or they break up with you, and you do the things that you need to do to become a better person, you find a person that's better suited for you in the future anyway. So the question is, why do we want to take steps backwards? And I know what I do. I know that I teach people on how to show up better, how to present themselves better moving forward. Um, but I'm really all about intention. What is your intentions? All right. That's what I guess all that whole little thing I just said summed up. What is your intentions through all this? Oh, Kathy got some advice. I think you should tell her and show her Lupa. It won't be easy, but for a woman to have such an impact on your soul, she's worth keeping and fighting for, in my opinion. She completely moved on, but I have a feeling I could get her back if I wanted to. I do feel it would be selfish. You're listening, brother. You're listening. You didn't have to pay a dime for that. All you had to do is pay me your time. You just had to just log in at the right time and be able to. I didn't even get super chat money for that. So I hope it's worth it, man. I hope it's valuable. And keep growing. Keep growing. Keep going that way. One thing I liked about The Great Gatsby, which I personally feel is one of my favorite movies all time. Um, sorry, to make sure this mic in the right spot. It's my personal greatest movie of all time, as far as like relationships. I firmly believe that Gatsby was a anxious, preoccupied person, because you can't get any more anxious, preoccupied than that. He did everything to win her love and affection. But the quote that I took away from that movie was, "You should constantly be going up." And I don't know if you guys ever seen The Great Gatsby, but played by Leonardo DiCaprio, he said, "Oh, my life has to constantly be going that way. I want to be," and that's how you should be in your life. It should be constantly, every day you should be getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. You need to be showing up better ways, being a little bit more loving to your kids, being a little bit more diligent about saying your prayers, a little bit more um, intentional about how you're showing up in people's lives, and just delivering the best value you can to anyone. All right. Thanks, man. It's mostly all right, all right, all right, all right. But my heart is always with the first one. If she came back, I'd take her. Absolutely. If she wants to come back into your life, then perfect. If not, then I think you owe it to her as a gift for her, but helping you become the best version of yourself, teaching you what you needed to know. Because I feel all heartbreak can be used. It can be harnessed into something. Now, what you harness it into is totally up to you. But for me, I've always shaped that heartbreak and that pain, and I turned it into something that was going to help me grow and help other people grow. Because heartbreak, it really helps you get a better insight on what the human experience is, how to relate to other people all around the world. I coach people all around the world, and the stories all sound the same. You can harness all of that pain and turn it into something much more powerful, something that is, a lot of the musicians. Okay, I'm gonna slow down here, right? A lot of the musicians, the the people who write, number one albums, all the way on a top 10, winning Grammys and stuff. I'm not gonna say his name because I don't know if I'm gonna get a copyright strike, but there's one guy that's done it. He basically talked about his whole heartbreak. Look at the woman who just came back. Went through her divorce. I think she's British, right? You guys know her name. Man, think about that. Think of how she took her album and made it exactly how she wanted it. She got upset with a company. I can't remember who the streaming service was, but they were having her playlist play in a sporadic order. She said, "No, I need you to play this in the order because this is the story that I want to tell." And it's all about heartbreak. Think of the artists. The artists were inspired by ex girlfriends or boyfriends. Like I said, musicians. It doesn't matter. Some people in the NFL or the NBA, they'll lose a loved one, lose a father or something, then they'll go out and play the best game of their life. You can always channel that pain and those emotions that you feel from that and transmute it into something that's going to be beneficial to you. Now, the people who transmute it into something that's toxic and they go down, they're not going Gatsby up. You know, those are the ones I have uh, massive empathy for, and I just hope that they can just one day wake up and realize that this happened for me. It didn't happen to me. Nothing happens to you. It all happens for you to help you grow. Hey, Heidi, 1 year single, and I still think about him and do not feel like going out with other men. Is there anything wrong with me? This you could potentially have become a love avoidant. You could have became either fearful or dismissive. I know in my community, a lot of women do that. A lot of women just fall in love with God. They say, "Well, Jesus is my boyfriend. I don't need a man." And that's not a way to live. We're meant to connect to people. We're meant to have that nucleus of husband, wife, or man, woman, and be helpmates to each other. That's what we're meant to do. But when you get scorned, especially by someone who, maybe toxic or narcissistic, I wasn't gonna say it, but it all depends. It all depends on the situation that you came from. If you were in a situation where you came and you guys left on a loving note, you understood that both of us are just growing in different directions, and I don't want the same things that you want, then that's one thing. But if it's something that was really toxic, I understand. I'm learning The Great Gatsby. I read that book but never seen the movie. It was made twice. They had the old version and then they had the redo with what's his name? Toby Maguire, I think. Toby Maguire and Leonardo DiCaprio. It's probably one of the only movies I've bought over the past 20 years. So that should say a lot. That girl in the movie was so mean. Which one? Oh, the way she treated him toward the end. I mean, honestly, if I'm coming from a relationship standpoint, it's typical. It's so typical because that's how a lot of women are. I would probably say 90 to 95% of women make decisions that's based on how they're feeling in the moment. This goes back to the book Great Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus. This goes back to that book. Says the same thing. They make the emotional decisions. So in that moment, she was feeling great. It was only when Gatsby started putting more pressure on her to do more, because he came anxious, preoccupied. He wanted more. He wanted her to denounce. I'm not even going to spoil the movie. Go check the movie out. Don't forget to like this video. Yeah, Glenn. Glenn, you're my boy, man. I appreciate you. Happy Friday, everyone. What if you're Jewish? What about it? I think I might have forgot what I even said. I was anxious sort of after years of a casual relationship with the DA. I still think about him. There's always going to be that one that got away, the one that never reached its full potential, the relationship that didn't all the way mature. And you're going to have that in the back of your mind. I was listening to a coach the other day, completely. Now, this guy, millions of followers, and he was saying the same exact thing that I've experienced, I've seen in my coaching practice. Many people will marry someone that they didn't have the strongest feelings for. They did it because, I don't want to miss out. I know the person that I really was in love with, they were just, mm, they imprinted. No, you can imprint on each other where that person is going to just have like this special place in your heart. Someone may reach out to you that you dated 5 years ago, but the relationship never really uh, ended, I guess. And you still have this emotional ties. Something that I do when I work with my clients is I have them do this meditation where they'll um, they'll put on this particular YouTube video, and they'll practice like this trance where they're just cutting ties from that person. They're envisioning that person being in their presence, and they're cutting the ties, because a person can keep their hooks in you for a really long time if you don't learn to cut those ties. And then you won't show up authentically in the relationships that you're going into. The people who are going to be getting you, they're probably going to be getting 75, 80% of you if you don't learn to just let that person go. I wrote a quote yesterday that said, forgiveness is huge too in the healing process. If you don't forgive that person, you're going to constantly have this this reserve stored of energy for that person. I mean, and it's not a good thing. The old saying, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. So if you can never get yourself to that indifference point where you're still, oh, I can't stand him, then you still have some sort of feelings for him. Because what you don't care about, you don't care about. You don't hate it. You can't don't care about something, but then hate it at the same time. Think about that. I've definitely shown signs of fearful avoidance. I have no childhood abuse history though. Yeah, and that's what I told. It's important to know that your attachment can change over time. You have these experiences that you go through in relationships that will cause you to be. What I learned from women, when they come out of relationships with a guy that was highly narcissistic or did a lot of psychological damage to them, emotional damage, they suffer from a lot of PTS. Um, I've seen them becoming more fearful avoidance and being very apprehensive about being present in the relationships that they're in. And I just wrote that quote too on Instagram. Go check that one out. Knowing as a man as much as you do about the relationships, does it get in the way of your own personal relationships? That's a loaded one, man. Yeah, it does. Um, it's really affected some relationships in the past. I'm just gonna sip my tea on that one. And for more ways than just like being 10 steps ahead. It's sometimes hard to take that hat off. When you know so much, it's like seeing your kid and they're running in the street and you're like, all right, just won't let them learn. And you see a car coming, you're gonna snatch them out the street. So it's like that, but you got to do it in a way where it doesn't feel condescending, and they don't feel as if they're not your equal. Because when they don't feel like you're equal, that's when it becomes a problem. It is so. It is hard. It's hard to balance that out. I know I have to, as me, as part of my journey, part of my growth. I need to learn how to get better at that. So yeah, it does. Looper, I've wondered that too. I bet he's an amazing partner because of all the work he's devoted to. Yeah, I mean, I know things, but it is also it's tough. It's a balance. Everything is a balance. And when you feel like you got it right, there comes reality hitting you in the face like, no, you still got some work to do. But it's okay. Yeah, domestic violence. Yeah, that'll definitely be one. All right, I gotta go. I got an appointment, but I appreciate you guys for showing up. Happy Friday. I hope you guys go into the weekend and you got some big plans. Me and my daughter, we're gonna decorate the Christmas tree, so that should be fun. Appreciate you guys as always. If you want my help, my website, www.fruitfulseeds with the Z at the end.com. Patreon, YouTube membership. I have all those for you. You can follow me on other social media accounts, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook is I am Coach Court. Thank you. Appreciate you. Namaste. Have a good weekend.